Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kurt Newman. I'm a doctor here, but I'm also president and CEO of Children's National Hospital. And it's just great to have everyone here. Happy holidays. We have some special things planned for today, for our patients and for our families. But first, we want to have a book reading, and we just have an unbelievable treat for you all. It's my pleasure to welcome back, and I don't even know how many times he's been here, but he's written just some terrific books, and he's here to read his new book, Todd Zimmerman, and his partner, John Hurst. Todd? Todd will be reading a book he wrote, which is called Oliver the Ornament Meets Marley and Joan and Abby. So Todd, I'd love for you to say a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here with you all again this year, making it the third year in a row that we've been able to share Oliver's story. You know, this year has been a really difficult year for so many of us. And what really strikes me this year is how important it was that to Mrs. Trump that she continued this tradition. We've lost so many things in this nation this year and across the world. But it was important that to Mrs. Trump that she continue this tradition that has gone on for over 70 years. So it's really an honor to be here with all of you in a socially distanced environment to hear the story of Oliver the Ornament Meets Marley, Joan, and Abby. This is actually the third story in the book, so I'll just tell all of you who are listening and watching up there, hi everyone. I'll tell you a little bit about what happened in the first two books so you know what's happening when Mrs. Trump reads the third. Oliver the Ornament is a story about one family's collection of Christmas ornaments. And the first story starts on Thanksgiving night when all of the ornaments are magically coming to life in the attic and getting ready for the big day, because tomorrow they're going to decorate their Christmas tree. We know how fun that is, right? But they quickly discover that Oliver has a broken arm. So Oliver has some challenges, but even though he has these challenges, he has a really, really wonderful positive attitude. And that positive attitude helps him overcome all odds to save the day. But not everyone in the attic is that nice to Oliver, because he can't do certain things that other ornaments can do. But even in the face of that, his friends stick up for him, and they come to his aid. And because of that, you're going to find that Oliver, in every story, overcomes all odds to save the day. In the third book, we're going to find the very special meaning about how the two ornaments at the top of the tree, Marley and Joan, who were named after my mom and John's mom, entered the family's collection, as well as how the church entered the family's collection. So with all that as a background, I think you've heard enough from me, and I would now like to turn it back over to Dr. Newman. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Todd. But in addition to Todd, we have another special visitor that's here to spread some holiday cheer to all of our patients and families. And I'm thrilled and honored to welcome back Mrs. Trump, First Lady of the United States, back to Children's National. Mrs. Trump, thank you for being with us. Now, we've been having this tradition, as Todd mentioned, for over 70 years. Bess Truman first came here back in 1945, and that was not long after her husband was President of the United States. And we began hosting the First Ladies then, and we've been doing it for 70 years. Now, Bess Truman probably didn't know it would be going on that long and what she had started, but just think about that. Now, the pandemic has changed so many things, and it's changed many of our lives, but I think it's really particularly meaningful that even though it's changed many of our holiday activities, Mrs. Trump decided to make this a priority. And so we're so honored that she chose to continue this tradition for our patients, our families, our doctors, our nurses, and researchers. I also want to express my personal gratitude because Mrs. Trump has been here many times that weren't ever reported or noticed, where she would come visit families, she would give support to our teams, and she would continue this tradition. She helped us open the Bunny Mellon Healing Garden, which has been such an amazing dimension for our hospital, for the kids, the families, all of our teams that can spend some time out there. And Mrs. Trump helped us open that. So, you know, it's especially meaningful for me, for my team, that she chose to be back here today, and she supported all of our families and kids for many years. Because after all, this is our 150th birthday, and it's just an exciting year for Children's National as well. So thank you, Mrs. Trump, and without further ado, it's my pleasure and honor to welcome back to Children's National the First Lady of the United States, Mrs. Trump.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is wonderful to be here. This is one of my favorite events during holiday time. And I'm very excited and looking forward to reading a book, Oliver the Ornament. And this is the series that I started to read a few years ago, and it's by Todd Zimmerman, who is with us today. Thank you so much, Todd. I want to say hello to all of the patients in the rooms that they are watching us, and I want to say a special hello to Colleen. I hope you're feeling well and stay strong and keep fighting. I'm sending you much love. I'm thinking of you all. Stay strong and well, and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. Oliver the Ornament meets Marley and Joan and Abby. The Nelson family was filled with the Christmas spirit as they continue decorating their house and sharing in their special holiday traditions. Henry and Holly had invited their friends Stephen and Rudy to join the festivities. "Look what I found, Rudy. Remember this?" Mom asked Rudy as she unwrapped Nora the menorah. "I sure do," replied Rudy. "That was really nice of you to get her for me." "Well, it was all Holly's idea," Mom added as she placed Nora on the table. That was the same year grandparents gave you Marley and Joan and Abby. Remember, Oliver? Why don't you tell us about it? So Holly began. "Remember, I was getting my tonsils out. It was right before Christmas. And the grandparents and Grandma and Grandpa came to visit me in the hospital. First, Grandma and Grandpa Z came in and gave me Marley and Joan. They told me that these angels would look out for me. And that's what we have done ever since, Holly," chimed in Marley and Joan from the top of the tree. Holly continued. "Then Grandma and Grandpa Ann came in and gave me Abby. They told me that as long as I had a church near me, I should never be scared of anything." The next day, Mom and Dad arrived to bring Holly home. "Before we go home, can we go get a menorah?" asked Holly. Startled by the question, Mom replied, "Sure, but why do you want one?" "Well, Rudy doesn't have a Christmas tree at her house, but she has a menorah, so I think we should have one at our house when she visits, so it's more like home to her," said Holly. Hearing this story for the first time, Nora said, "That's the first time I ever heard that story." The children were shocked beyond belief. They knew the ornaments came to life, but didn't expect the same from Nora. Just as they were about to ask Nora a question, Mom and Dad entered the living room to help them get ready to go skating at the town square. Yeah. Oh, they're going to have so much fun skating, said Oliver. That's where Mom and Dad had their first date. Oliver then began telling everyone the story of their first Christmas. But before he could finish the story, they all heard loud noises coming from the attic. It sounded like hammering, drilling, and sewing. The ornaments all wondered what was going on in the attic and what Nellie was up to. After having her last plan to ruin Christmas stopped by Oliver and Ethel, Nellie was more determined than ever to ruin Christmas for the Nelsons family and the ornaments. This time thought she planned everything out perfectly. Meanwhile, back in the living room, the ornaments got Nora up to speed what was Nellie had been doing. I think I should go up there and give her a piece of my mind, an upset Nora stated. That's a bad idea, said Fraser. I think you should go talk to her. Well, then I'm going with you, said Mary. The ornaments' plan was simple. They were going to invite Nellie to the kitchen to bake Christmas cookies, but then surprise her with a party. I think that will really cheer her up, said Mary. Just be careful, insisted Marley and Joan. Once in the attic, Fraser and Mary found Nellie. Hi, I'm Fraser, and this is Mary. We thought we would come up and introduce ourselves to you. Oh, you did, a suspicious Nellie answered. There they are. I'm actually glad you're here, said Nellie. You know, it's rather hot in here. Do you mind if I open the window? She asked. Fraser and Mary thought Nellie was up to something, but they didn't know what. Nellie continued saying, You know, I've just built really fun seesaw, but I don't have anyone to play with. Will you play with me? Well, okay, replied Fraser nervously, as he and Mary stood on one end. As soon as Fraser and Mary were in place, Nellie jumped as high as she could, landing on the other end of the seesaw. Shocked and frightened, Fraser and Mary were catapulted into the air, out the window, and straight toward the garbage can. Frightened beyond belief, Mary screamed for help. As she did, the other ornaments looked out the window in disbelief as they saw their friends fly across the sky and land right in the garbage can. Oh my, look, Oliver, screamed Marley and Joan. The garbage truck is about to take them away. We have to save them. Hang on, Fraser, hang on, Mary, we are coming to get you, screamed the three friends as they flew towards the garbage truck. Quick, let me grab you, hollered Oliver as he reached down to get hold of Fraser's slides. Just in time, Oliver saved the day by catching his friends right before they were about to be dumped into the garbage truck. Fraser and Mary were covered in garbage, but revealed to be okay. Joan yelled from above, "Keep up the good work, Oliver." Back in the attic, Nellie couldn't believe her eyes. Oliver had thwarted her plans again and saved the day. Just then, she looked down and saw an envelope with her name on it. It must be another trick, she thought. That was a close call, said Fraser, still covered in garbage. I'm not going up there ever again, promised Mary. But soon they all began discussing a new plan to get through Nellie. Meanwhile, Nellie was reading the invitation to bake cookies. It has to be a trick, she thought. Here she is. Do you have a chance to give the invitation to Nellie? Asked Abby. Nellie was now listening to the conversation from the attic. No, Mary answered. So now we are going to have to find another way to trick her to come down here. Soon they all began whispering about their new plan to get through Nellie. Aha, said Nellie to herself. They're up to something. Just then, the whole family arrived home. You know, Holly, there is more to the story of when Marley and Joan and Abby were giving to you, said Oliver. What do you mean? Asked Holly. So Oliver began telling how Marley and Joan had taken Abby for a ride that night and went to visit every child in the hospital. One by one, they entered hospital rooms, spreading good wishes and hope to all the children. Holly and Henry were amazed. They knew that the ornaments were looking out for Holly, but had no idea that they had spread love and kindness to all other children at the hospital. Just then, Dad came into the room to tell the children it was time for bed. Once the children were out of the room, Itzel asked Marley and Joan and Abby, so that's how you knew to grab Oliver and help him save Fraser and Mary? That's right, they answered, but we never thought we had be doing it again. Before going to sleep, the magic of Christmas lit the tree, and the ornaments all began singing together, thinking of how wonderful it is to be kind to others, not just Christmas, but throughout the entire year. Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year. Thank you.
Mrs. Trump, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, and thank you for continuing the tradition of being here. That story, Todd, thank you. So creative and just perfect for all the children in the hospital to think about that. And boy, those ornaments, they are busy, aren't they? But spreading good cheer and sending such an important message about being kind, being nice all year long. It's exactly the message you have sent through Be Best. So thank you so much, Mrs. Trump, for being here and for bringing cheer to the children. So we're not done. We have another little surprise. Mrs. Trump is going to be playing bingo, holiday bingo, with all of the children that are tuned into Seacrest Studio. So in just a minute, we'll be launching that through our Seacrest Studio so the kids can play holiday bingo with Mrs. Trump. Thank you so much for being here.